So there was an interesting article, or interesting motion, I should say, filed by Tyler Robinson's attorneys, and it started with this, Holly. They filed a motion about 2 weeks ago asking that their client, this is the person who was accused of shooting Charlie Kirk and killing Charlie Kirk at UVU in September. They filed a motion that he be allowed to appear in court under two circumstances. One, that he be allowed to wear street clothes, because right now he's wearing jail clothes.
Right.
So when he comes out to the courtroom and he sits in the courtroom, they want him to be wearing regular street clothes. And second, they don't want him shackled when he goes, so he can walk out of the holding cell, walk over to counsel table, sit down, and
or
just
in a
like
suit
everyone
or something.
else.
Yeah.
And that, of course, is done because of the perception that people have when they see somebody in jail clothes or with handcuffs. They think, well, they must have done something. I would say this: typically, we don't allow that for preliminary matters.
Right.
Typically, we save those two conditions for in the presence of the jury, and we're a long way from a jury trial. We're probably 2 years away from a jury trial. But you want the jury to see the person just as you and I are presented today. Street clothes, no shackles, nothing like that, because it sort of hurts the whole presumption of innocence thing if you're dressed like that. So they filed that motion, and the judge preliminarily granted it. But then the state came in and filed a response, and the defense is now saying, hey, wait a minute, our case is against the state, not the sheriff's office. They've sort of attacked the pleading of the state, saying, hey, our beef is with the state, not the sheriff's office.
So explain that to me, because it's not clear to me what they're arguing, actually.
Yeah, so what happened is this, and the pleading has been sealed, so I'm guessing, because I've tried to look it up and I can't find it. There was a response filed to the defense motion that he appear in street clothes and out without shackles. And in part of that response was something from the sheriff's office saying, hey, this is a public safety issue. Don't make us go through this. We don't think it's safe for us to have to do that. And the defense attorneys are saying,
you don't even have the right to answer.
You don't have a dog in this fight. We want to hear from the county attorney's office. And let me say this. We deal with this issue all the time. And so let's say I have a client in jail and I'm in front of a judge and I say, my client feels like they're not safe. The prosecuting attorney can't order the sheriff to move them to a different cell.
Sure.
Or let's say your client's got, needs a root canal. He's suffering.
Yeah.
The prosecuting attorney can't order that he see a dentist. So the jail does have tremendous authority and leeway in the handling of prisoners in the state of Utah, because that's what they do.
Right.
If you consider good time, if you consider work release, if you consider ankle monitor, all those things, a judge can say, go to jail for 90 days, and the sheriff can say, I'll let you out tomorrow with an ankle monitor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or medical care, like I talk about, things like that. If you're in an unsafe environment or you need mental health treatment, those are decided by the jail. So it doesn't surprise me that the state did file something from the sheriff's office saying, we think there's a public safety issue.
Right.
I'm a little surprised that the defense is now saying, hey, sheriff, you don't have any say in this, but I think the sheriff has a lot of say in how things are handled, especially when it deals with public safety.
So if they're saying you shouldn't have responded, we want the judge to throw out this response, can now the county attorney's office respond and say the same thing?
Then they'll have to, and do the exact same thing. And so the judge, I think, is scheduling some sort of a, in camera, which means in private hearing. He'll have a hearing where the public doesn't appear and is not familiar with what's going on. And maybe someone from the sheriff's office, maybe the sheriff, will come in and say, hey, don't make us do this. I mean, it's going to put the sheriff's deputies at risk. It's going to put others at risk. It'll put Tyler Robinson at risk.
Right.
Let's face it. Because in Utah County, unlike most counties, the jail and the court are not even in the same city.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to Davis County, there's a walkway between the jail and the court. And most every other county, Salt Lake and Utah, are different because they have jails. In Salt Lake, it's in South Salt Lake, and in 4th District, it's in Spanish Fork, where the courthouse is in Provo. There is one in Spanish Fork, but he'll be at the one in Provo. So they've got to get him out of the jail. They've got to put him on a bus. They've got to drive him from the jail to the courthouse on a day when everybody knows he's got court.
Right.
Anybody that wants to, and it's not like they're going to be driving an undercover Prius. I mean, they've got the Utah County Sheriff's Office van.
Right.
With
I've
the
seen
big
them.
markings.
I've seen them. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that the sheriff has every reason to feel like, whoa, this is going to be very uncomfortable for us. Maybe they move him 2 or 3 hours before court and just hold him in those little holding cells, which are awful, by the way. It's not someplace you want to hang out very long.
It's interesting. So I'm seeing that that the judge said he could show up for the October 30th hearing, which is next week, as you've pointed out, in street clothes. But there's going to be another hearing to talk about whether that can be a thing ongoing. And so I was curious because I saw a news article saying that hearing to talk about his clothing was going to be closed. But I think you helped me understand that it's probably because they have to talk about security measures.
Right. And you don't want the world to know about that. If the security
This is what the courtroom has in place.
This is what we're going to do to make sure he's secure. We're going to drive this specific car. We're
Right,
going to leave
at
this
this time.
specific time. We're going to bring him down this sally port on this end of the courthouse. No. We want to do all that in as much silence as possible. The other issue is his coming out in shackles. I mean, I don't know. So he walks out of in the courtroom. There's a little holding cell to the side of the court. They walk out. They're in the courtroom itself, and they walk out to counsel table, which is in front of the judge. And we have them walk out in shackles all the time. You see them there in their jail clothes and their cuffs. They want him to walk out like anybody else.
Right.
I mean, that poses. I mean, there's a risk of flight, but I don't know that he's going to run because I'm sure there's going to be a wall of bailiffs behind his defense table to make sure he doesn't go anywhere. And I don't know that what I guess another problem could be people from the audience being able to get to him.
Right.
But the same wall applies there. I don't know that he's a threat to himself or anything else if he's not cuffed. And there's no way somebody's going to get into that courtroom with a gun or in some way able to hurt him. But I don't know. The cuffs would make a difference with that. But the whole idea of shackles is a bigger problem for the sheriff, I think, than the street clothes. I mean, you got to dress him out, which is a hassle. But having him not in shackles is one thing that makes the law enforcement really nervous. Just to have him walking around like anybody else. I mean, what if he strikes someone, or what if he runs?
Well,
or
and
what
there
if
have
somebody
been
attacks him?
there have been cases, right,
Absolutely.
where people have done that. So there was a shooting in a court in Utah, right? I think a bailiff was shot maybe by somebody who was
and there was a
before
federal
judge.
court hearing where a guy jumped out of the table and tried to stab the witness that was testifying against him. I mean, things like that can happen. Often, when you're in front of the jury, they'll put like a curtain or drape on front of the defense table, in front of all the tables, so it looks the same. A sheet, if you will.
So they're shackled, but you can't see it.
And they're shackled at their ankles, so you can't see it. Their hands are on the table. They're writing down. They're talking to their attorney. They're wearing a nice shirt and tie, but they're not going anywhere because they're shackled, sometimes cuffed to the table itself.
Right. We don't have a whole lot of time, but is there any speculation about Tyler Robinson being at risk from somebody wanting to assassinate him for what he did to Charlie Kirk, allegedly?
But there's every indication of that. And that's another reason why I think the Utah County Sheriff's Office is on high alert. Yeah. He's probably in protective custody. He's probably alone. He's probably not with other inmates and in a place where he could be hurt, even by, I bet he's under 24-hour surveillance, too, just from the guards and other people. But, I mean, he's got to be a security nightmare for the sheriff. And the defense have arguably made that worse, or at least more difficult for the sheriff, by saying, hey, let him show up in court with street clothes and walk in with his sneakers like everybody else. And the sheriff's like, come on, I can only do so much.
Yeah, interesting. I know I've seen online people who have saying just take him out and apply the death penalty right now.
Yeah, which obviously we don't do in America. And he's going to get a fair trial. He's got good counsel. They've got good attorneys for the state, and it's going to go forward.